that Cuomo has permitted to open up to a quarter capacity indoors. Many of them will be Chinese restaurants for Lunar New Year. So I figured, let me get on Phil Wong, president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York. I've known him for many years. He's been in the forefront of many of the activities that Chinese Americans and Asians have been involved with. So thanks for joining us today on the first day of the Lunar New Year, Phil.
Thank you, Curtis, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so first, Phil, explain the significance of the Lunar New Year, because we know about our own New Year on January 1st. We know about the Jewish New Year, but I would bet most of our listeners know little about the Lunar New Year.
Yeah, well, for thousands of years, China uses the lunar calendar system to determine one calendar year, and that is determined by the rotations of the moon around the Earth. So we have one lunar month instead of, in our case, that uses the solar, the Earth's rotation around the sun. So we have the lunar calendar, which varies year to year, by the way. So the dates change from year to year when it comes to Lunar New Year. You have to look up the lunar calendar as to what was be next year's Lunar New Year, which that's not going to be February 12th of 2022. So
now, Phil, where were your parents from?
My parents are both born in China.
All right, mainland China?
Mainland China is correct, yes.
All right, and were you born here in America or over?
No, I was born in Hong Kong, and I immigrated to the United States while I was 6 years old.
And where did you grow up at that time?
I lived in Mulberry Street, across the street from Columbus Park.
Wow, that's where I'm going to be tomorrow, celebrating the 42nd anniversary of the Guardian Angels.
Wow.
And the prisoners in the tombs will be able to wave at us, some of which we've put in there.
Well, I'll make time to go out and see you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Sure.
But
Okay.
Phil, did you grow up in Chinatown, or did your parents move the family out at some point?
Yeah, we moved there because there's just no space. So they went house shopping and found a home in Elmhurst, Queens. They moved there 2 years, like 1976, and I lived in Elmhurst since then.
All right, back then when you were young and your family moved in Elmhurst from Chinatown, were there many Asians in that area?
Very few. There are very few Asians, very few Chinese in this neighborhood back in 1976.
And now?
Now is 50, 60% Asians.
So what do you attribute that growth to? The fact that in many areas of our city now, I'm surprised. I go to 8th Avenue in Brooklyn. That's now the largest Chinese-American community, larger than Flushing, larger than Chinatown. What would you attribute this tremendous growth of our Asian population to?
I would say United States gave an opportunity to the immigrants, and they find communities that are reasonably priced, and they move there. So Elmhurst was an early neighborhood. Then when that got saturated, they chose other neighborhoods to settle in, such as the 8th Avenue Chinatown that you mentioned. That was created like in the early 90s. So and it wasn't there before.
Now, Phil, what high school did you go to?
I went to Jamaica High School.
Oh, up on the hill. So you were near Edison and Hillcrest.
That's correct.
At that time, how many Asian students were there? Because that was like a vocational school, right?
Yeah, very few. Very few. Very few.
Wow, you must have felt like a loner at time out there, Phil.
Okay, look, I study on my own. I don't care who's sitting next to me, okay? I do my own work. Right?
Now, about that education, we've seen the last few years, the Asian community has been in the forefront of demanding of our public school system, our Department of Education, that they keep the specialty high schools and that they also keep the talented program, the advanced and talented program for the younger students. Why is it seems that the Asian community has taken the lead in that?
Well, if you look at any school system, even when you or I went to junior high school back then, we have what's called Gifted and Talented Program. But back then it was called SP. So we have students that's like a grade ahead or even 2 grades ahead of the system. Then there is this program provided to them. GNT. Then think of the other spectrum. When their students are behind, then there is an IEP provided for them. There's special ed. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Public school is not one-size-fits-all. Now, just like the specialized high schools that were created back in 1971 for students that with the talent that's like at least 2 grades ahead of them, we have these schools that with a rigorous curriculum that's challenging, that's in the that will motivate the students to stay in public schools. We Asians believe in a merit-based system. We don't believe in quotas. We don't believe in lotteries. That's why we're fighting to keep the system in place. There's no better substitute right now, and we need to keep the system. We're already so behind compared to other countries in the rest of the world. We need to keep the system.
Now, Phil, what do you think? Because years ago, the Jewish community was in the same situation. They were putting caps on the number of Jews that they would allow at colleges, universities, private schools, elite public schools. It seems now it's no longer the Jewish students. The target are the Asian students. They're actually saying, oh, we're only going to take 30%, only going to take 40%, even though by merit they might actually fill 70% of the seats.
You're absolutely right, Curtis, and that's unfortunate. So just like the what Harvard University or Yale University is doing, they changed their admission standards just so to decline Asians.
And finally, Phil, a final question on this, the first day of Lunar New Year. There is fear that our biggest adversary globally is mainland China, or as I still refer to it, old school, Red China. And many people will look at the Chinese like they did groups years before, Italians or Germans, if there was conflict, question their patriotism, their loyalty. I know that there are people who look at, especially Chinese Americans, and they look and they say, gee, are they double agents? Are they feeding information to Beijing? What can you reassure our listeners, most of whom are not Asian, that in fact that's not happening?
Well, based on the cases that are exposed by the FBI, yes, these agents are out there. I think every country has some sort of agents stationed in the United States, but that does not reflect the Asian population as a whole. We have universities that contain faculties that are either sent overseas from China, visiting scholars, visiting professors, and then we have faculties that are here, made of Asians that are born and raised here, and those are not spies, and they should not be treated as such. And we're seeing this happening in major universities all across the United States, and that is a big issue that we have to deal with.
Well, thank you, Phil, president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York. I've known you for years. You've done great work. And plus, congratulations in being named to the Education Power 100. That is truly an elite award, Phil.
Well, it's thousands of parents have been mobilized in protests and rallies and hearings, and I treat it as a recognition of their work. It is not just about me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You, Curtis. Thank
As
you.
we continue our celebration of the Lunar New Year, today is day number 1. Tomorrow, our 42nd anniversary of the Guardian Angels, we will be in Chinatown, where we have devoted a lot of time over this last year to protect Asians who have come under attack, especially Chinese Americans, because some loony-kazoonie Americans think that they are the transponders of coronavirus, that somehow because they're Chinese, they carry the coronavirus, they're responsible for the coronavirus, and the vicious attacks that have occurred on the subways, in the streets, in the parks, and not only against young men, young women, the elderly. Talking Chinese women, Chinese men, 80, 90 years old, being spat upon, smacked, knocked down by drunks and thugs and emotionally disturbed people. And it's almost as if the city doesn't even want to pay attention to it because Asians generally are very quiet. You know, they work, they play by the rules, they educate their kids. They're not always out there, no justice, no peace. Whose streets are streets? When's the last time you saw an Asian demonstration coming down your street here? Whose streets are streets? Now, they may buy your houses, and that pisses you off. But, hey, when they show up with the money, I notice you're more than happy to accept the money. It's probably about 2 times the value of your house.